Hello, my name is Jim. We've got a quick one for you. We're going to go over this M18 Rover floodlight today on
Kilimanjaro.
So this is a pretty straightforward device here. It's 5 of these super bright LEDs and a spot for a typical Milwaukee M18 battery on the bottom. So I got this as part of this starter set, they call it. It's a 5 amp hour battery, a charger, and it costs about $150, including the light, of course. You can get the light by itself for $120, but there's frequently deals where you can get it with batteries or with some other tools for a lot cheaper. So you can get it for pretty cheap if you look around and find a good sale on it. So the light is pretty useful. It throws a pretty wide light, so it's not a narrow beam. Because it's got the 5 different LEDs, it's not a single point light, so you get a little bit less of a shadow. It's still coming from basically the same spot though, so you'll still see some shadows. It's not the greatest for doing painting with. It's very difficult to show how bright a light is on video like this because the camera will just self-adjust to show how bright the light is. I will show it a little bit later just by itself. I'll say though, I find if you're doing something like painting, I feel like this light puts out enough light to illuminate something like a regular standard door. So if you want to paint the trim around a door and you don't have any light or you're doing it at night or something, this will be able to light that whole area without trouble. If you're just in kind of a dim area and you need some extra light, this can pretty much light up a whole room by itself. If you're doing something like electrical work, it's plenty bright enough for anything like that. So it's very useful. It's got different brightness settings, and it can take any sort of the different size Milwaukee batteries. I've got 3 of those batteries in different sizes here. This is a 1.5 amp hour battery that you frequently would use with like a cordless drill. This is a 9 amp hour battery, which you might use with some of the bigger tools or some of the outdoor tools. And this is kind of the standard 5 amp hour battery that you're going to find with most tools. So they all fit in here. The small ones fit without a problem, lots of room around them. The bigger ones fit without a problem as well. The only issue is then you can't get your fingers under this handhold real well, so it's kind of irritating, kind of pinches in there. It's not the greatest design there, but it's nice that they fit all the way underneath here. The bigger batteries, the 9 amp hour batteries and the 12 amp hour batteries, they actually stick out past the bottom, so that makes it a little less stable. It's not really a big deal. It's got a big heavy battery at the bottom. It's not going anywhere, but it's a little weird that they didn't make the bottom big enough to hold one of these big batteries. So speaking about how stable it is, it does have this really nice wide base. The front of it is rubbery here, and it's got these 2 magnets here, so if you want to stick it on a sheet metal duct or a metal beam or something like that, it holds it just fine. Even with the bigger batteries, it's not a problem. The light itself can swivel and tilt if it goes completely flat like that for storage, or if you just use it like that. It'll flip up all the way over, spin around almost 180 or 360 degrees and all the way around. And it's super useful. You can usually find some way to position this so that it's shining exactly where you want it to be, and it stays that way. Like I mentioned, there's different brightness levels. At the top here, there's a mode button, and that will adjust the brightness of it. And then, of course, your on-off switch is just a push button. With the 5 amp hour battery, I get about 3 hours, maybe 3 hours and 15 minutes of light out of it. It's pretty good. It's not great. However, it's kind of just a trade-off. The more light you want, the more it's going to use up the battery. So if you want a brighter light, it's going to use more batteries. All the LEDs from all the different lights are about the same efficiency level, so it doesn't matter too much. More light you get, the more power it's going to use. That does mean that with a 12 amp hour battery, you'll be able to run for basically a whole shift, which can be pretty useful, but those batteries do cost a fortune. It's easy enough to swap. If you've got 2 of these, you can just swap them in and out. One can be charging, it easily will charge faster than this can use up the power. So with these small batteries, only get about 45 minutes of power, but it can be good for a little job you've got to do, so not a big deal. When the battery is about to die, it does start to blink. So if you've got about 10 minutes left, it'll blink twice, and then 5 minutes it'll blink another twice, something like that. That's to give you some time to either get a new battery, or if you're in a really dark spot, to get out of there before you lose all your light. So that's kind of nice, but it is also irritating that's the only way to know that you're about to run out of power. So this is with just the light on. It's going to be a little hard to tell. Like I said, the camera adjusts to make it all look about the same brightness. You can see how the shadow it casts though, and the color of it's a little bit bluer. I'll show you another picture here. That's of it just outside. You can see about on my house about how much area it illuminates. Like I said, it's plenty bright enough to do most jobs with. It's not the greatest for painting. It does, for painting you really want a lot of light and a lot of light coming from different directions, but it'll get the job done if that's what you got. Last thing I want to talk about is the durability of this light. Now, durability is always super hard to measure, but I've had this light for a couple years now. I've knocked it on the floor multiple times. I frequently will stick it onto the ceiling with the magnets. I've got metal ducts in the ceiling of my shop here, so I'll just stick it onto the ceiling. then a couple minutes later I'll have forgotten about it, I'll walk by and knock my head onto it and it falls on the floor. So the first time I did that I was super worried that it had broken. It's been fine. I've done that, more times than I'd like to admit, and it hasn't been an issue with it. The swivel's a little bit looser than when I got it, but it still holds its position. No big deal. So I really like this light. It puts out a lot of light. It's a nice wide light. It's not too focused, so you walk off to the side and you can't see what you're doing all of a sudden. Very handy. It's got so many mounting positions. You can always get it pointed in the right direction, and I really like it. That's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.